Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Prosus Investor Update conference call. All participants will be in listen-only mode. There will be an opportunity to ask questions later during the conference. If you should need assistance during the call, please signal an operator by pressing star, then 0. Please note that this call is being recorded. I would now like to turn the conference over to Owen Ryan, Head of Investor Relations. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Irene. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us this morning. With me on the call today, I have our Chairman, Koos Bekker, our new interim CEO, Ervin Tu, and our CFO, Bob van Dijk, who will speak to you about the changes we announced this morning. We have 30 minutes for this call, so the team will make some remarks, and then we will open up to questions. So with that, I will turn the call over to our Chairman, Koos.
Hello, folks. Just to check with Owen. Are you happy with the sound level, Owen?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay. Folks, thank you for your time. We want to brief you on a change we announced this morning. We announced that we'll move over to an interim CEO. Now, as to the background, you know, the life of every company, every few years, one CEO hands over the baton to the next one. I believe the average lifespan of a CEO of a listed US company is something like 5 to 7 years. At this stage, our CEO, Bob van Dijk, had been in charge for a full decade. So in discussions between him and the board, we felt now is a good time for a handover. The process to follow, perhaps an observation about that, when you decide on a transition, it's best to execute that immediately. Because just think about it, the moment you announce there will be a transition, there will be a search, it's going to take a few months. The current incumbent simply loses all power. That's how companies work. And it's a pointless, unhappy period. So we decided to do it differently. We simply said, here's a point of transition. Board and Bob agreed, 10 years, successful 10 years, let's get on. Now we transition to an interim CEO. During that period, the board will then go through its process of re-looking at strategy, defining what we want, going through recruitment, making an appointment of a permanent CEO. Okay. Now, just an observation. From the side of the board, we want to thank Bob very much for excellent work over that period. We're very grateful to him. Bob also agreed to remain available to the group, both at the board, access to the board, and access to Ervin to advise them for a full year until the end of September next year. Bob certainly contributed to our success, and we look forward to, in future, communicating with him. We also wish him well with his career, and no doubt he's going to launch exciting ventures. Good luck with all those. Then turning to Ervin, we'll talk a bit more in a minute. Some of you know him well and have dealt with him, some have not, but I hope you'll get acquainted over the next few days. Since he joined us in 2021, Ervin immersed himself in all aspects of our business, and he's made actually a significant contribution already to the group's strategic direction. But now he's stepping up. And as you know, to be a CEO in a tech company these days is a rather demanding little job. The board has full confidence in Ervin. Very best of luck to you. So if I may ask him to say a few words, you shouldn't expect a full exhibition of strategy from him, but you'd probably like to hear his voice. Over to Ervin.
Thanks very much, Koos, and thank you all for joining the call. I have met many of you already, and I look forward to seeing you again and meeting those that I have yet to meet. This is truly an honor, and I'm thankful to the board for giving me this opportunity, and of course to Bob for his partnership since I joined the group in 2021. I'm assuming this role at a very important time for our industry and for the group, and I must say that I assume this role with a feeling of great responsibility. We are on track to meet the commitments we made to shareholders at our Capital Markets Day in December. As a reminder, they are to continue the open-ended share repurchase while the discount to NAV remains elevated, to deliver consolidated e-commerce profitability during the first half of the financial year ending 2025, to to simplify the corporate structure, which has been completed today, and to do further work on crystallizing the value of the e-commerce portfolio for shareholders. We are well capitalized, and we will continue to deploy our capital in a disciplined fashion. Our goal, as always, is to compound value over the long term as an operator and an investor. As an operator, our focus is on growing our businesses more quickly than our peers and profitably. We will also continue investing in our businesses to ensure profitable growth over the long term. As an investor, we will assess, and let me stress, given the market conditions today, in a disciplined way, the many opportunities that exist within the technology landscape today and tomorrow. With every incremental dollar we have to invest, we look carefully at how best to deploy that capital in a manner which maximizes value for our shareholders. Organic investment, owning new businesses in part or in whole, or return of capital. We will adjust the mix of these elements as conditions warrant. And finally, in the NAV per share equation, which you heard much from me about in December at Capital Markets Day, it is equally important to focus on the denominator as much as the numerator and take action if we can. Therefore, we will continue the open-ended share repurchase program as long as the discount remains elevated. Focusing on this formula, we believe will create a significant amount of value for shareholders over time. So thank you again. I'm really excited to get started, and I look forward to taking some of your questions today and interacting more with you in the future. As Koos alluded to in his opening, this is day one for me, and I will come back to you with further thoughts after the group announces interim results. Let me now turn the call over to Basil. Basil?
Thank you, Ervin, and congratulations. I'm energized, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. Hello, everyone. There's a lot to digest this morning, so I'm only going to make a few points. We have now completed the removal of the cross-shareholding between Naspers and Prosus, and we would like to thank you for your vote and for the support of this action. With the cross-holding removed, the share repurchase at Prosus recommenced this morning, and the Naspers share repurchase will recommence tomorrow. So it's as we told you when we announced the removal of the cross-holding. We are 2 weeks from closing the books on the first half of the year, so as you will understand, I can't get into too much detail on the financials. But what I can affirm and reiterate with you is that the business is operating with momentum, and we're on track to deliver the commitment of consolidated e-commerce profitability during the first half of 2025. So those are my brief remarks, and I think we're now ready to open for questions. So operator, if you could please open the questions.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone would like to ask a question, you're welcome to press star and then 1 on your touchtone phone or on the keypad on your screen. If you, however, wish to withdraw the question, you may press star and then 2 to remove yourself from the question queue. Once again, if you would like to ask a question, you're welcome to press star and then 1. The first question we have is from Cesar Tyron of Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the call and the opportunity to ask questions. So this is Cesar from Bank of America. I have 2 questions, and I wanted to ask if it's possible to ask them to Koos, if that's okay. The first one, I wanted to ask, has Ervin been instrumental in convincing the board to implement the buyback and to focus on break-even? Both of those measures have been taken very positively by investors, or have these measures been more of a consensus at the board? The second question, the company has about $15 billion of gross cash. Do you see most of this cash being invested in the next couple of years, or do you think it will be returned to shareholders? Thank you so much.
So, Cesar, it's Ervin.
Shall I go first?
My suggestion is on number 1, you can address that, and number 2, I'm happy to take that one.
Yeah. So, investors, you can see who's in charge in this company. Happening. Just to comment on Basil's observation, when Basil talked about a profit in the first half of 25, I think what he meant was in the period 1 April next year to end of September next year, the commitment is to deliver on the non-10-cent part, the profit in that period. Is that correct, Basil?
That's correct.
Okay. Then, Cesar, as to your first question, Ervin was part of the management team. So on the one hand, to ascribe particular actions only to him would be to flatter him a little bit too much. On the other hand, he was at the core of it, and certainly, for instance, in the share buyback, his team came up with a very innovative solution that solved the problem that bugged us for months. So he's deeply involved. I wouldn't say he can claim sole credit unless he's very presumptuous, but he could certainly claim to be part of the core team that planned it very much. And then on the use of funds, you're right, the right one, Ervin. Tell them how you'll waste investors' money.
We have no intention of wasting anyone's money. I would say to you that we think about our balance sheet today with utmost care. We understand that we are in a fortunate position to have the cash we have. And as I've said on other calls, this fortunate position is also not something that we've had for a long time. So be a little patient with us as we consider what opportunities out there. The principle that's most important to understand is we know that our goal for you as our shareholders is to compound value over time and to do so in a disciplined way. So that means we will deploy that capital if and when we see something that has attractive returns. We don't win, we don't generate good returns if we just deploy capital. We will invest when and if we find exceptional companies to back. If we don't, you should anticipate that we will stay very patient. So that's how we think about it as an entire management team, not just me.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful.
The next question we have is from William Packer of... Thank you, sir. The next question we have is from William Packer of BNP Paribas Exane. Please go ahead.
Hi, management. Many thanks for taking my questions. I've got three, and if I could direct the 10-cent questions to Koos and the other question to Ervin, that'd be fantastic. So firstly, I've had some incoming this morning from investors, and we've seen a bit of 10-cent share price weakness on fears that the change in management can lead to an acceleration in the sell down of 10-cent. Can you just confirm if any change to plans are likely? And then, I suppose secondly, while the sell down and buyback is very popular with Prosus holders, and it's obviously helped reduce the discount, some 10-cent holders I speak to, particularly in Asia, are skeptical. They suggest Prosus is selling as a semi-permanent overhang for 10-cent, which pressures the 10-cent share price. Do you have any comments to reassure those investors about...
Well, we've lost you.
Sorry? Sorry, can you not hear me?
No.
Can you hear us?
I can hear William.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
William, can I suggest we proceed? Can you hear us well enough?
I can, yeah. So I'll fire away.
Let me answer your first question while they connect Owen, and then you can put the other two to Owen. So just on the 10-cent one, we invested with Ervin with 10 cents more than 20 years ago. And of course, I'm on the board there. And we still believe it is one of the best tech companies in the whole world, in the entire world. And they've got a very solid future ahead of them. So we're selling 10-cent shares simply because we have this very high discount factor on the Naspers and the Prosus side that we want to get rid of, and it seems effective in achieving that. But we certainly don't want to go down too much, and we certainly are not going to accelerate anything. So I think the report that came in is just sort of speculation. It's complete nonsense. There's no such plan. We continue with the plan, and as Basil mentioned, the buyback resumed this morning, but there's no intention to change it. And we certainly have an extremely high regard of 10-cent. That's our main investment, and we're very proud of the association.
Thanks very much for the cover. I suppose...
Just note, sorry, the management team here dropped off the call. We are back now, though.
Super. So just the sort of second question for Ervin. Could you help us think about sort of in a bit more detail about M&A priorities in the medium term? How's your thinking skewed between larger deals and smaller investments and control versus stakes? Any color would be appreciated. Thank you.
I'd say, William, that we think about all of those as options, but I'd return to the principle I articulated earlier. Our goal is to compound value and to be disciplined in how we invest, particularly under these market conditions. And if we see great companies, we will pull the trigger. If we don't, we will sit on the sidelines. So whether small or large, we don't think about returns as small or large. We think about returns, period. So everything is open as an option for us, but I think the most important thing is to focus on that principle.
Many thanks.
The next question we have is from Kevin Matheson of Avial. Please go ahead.
Hi, Chris. Chris, 10 years ago when Bob came on board, I recall that you actually took a sabbatical, and it was very important to you to give a lot of space to the new coming CEO so he could develop and implement a strategy. Just given that we've got this change right now, how do we think about it going forward? Does Ervin have that same sort of blank canvas in order to build a strategy and go and implement it, or do you see this as a continuation of what's already been done? And I think that the sort of follow-up to that is that when Bob did join, he also came with a number of other executives, and we understand that the ranks are a little bit thinner at the moment, and that business plan of building and operating, does that continue, or is it going to be more about investments or disinvestments going forward? Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me suggest that you take 1 and 2, and I'll take 3, please.
Okay. Just for investors that don't know, Kevin is one of the people that understand our group best. He's been following us for years. He sometimes anticipated what we're going to do still. So his questions are in similar vein perceptive. Kevin, I feel very much like a sabbatical. It's an excellent idea. I haven't thought about it, but I'll suggest it. My wife is going to second it, so Ervin might find himself surprised. In need of some replacement for me for a while. That's an excellent suggestion. I'll turn it over in my mind. But the position is different. You know, years ago, of course, I ran the company for many years, and then when you come in, you don't want to be in the shadow and have everyone looking over your shoulder at the previous chappie. Now it's quite different. I haven't been running the company for several years. Bob ran it. So I'm just one of the passive, useless board members that executives run the company, and they report to the board, and the board needs to control it and approve or decline, but they're not running the show. So I think there's not much of a problem there. Ervin, you're very welcome to comment on that aspect and also his second suggestion.
I have full support of the board, and I have every intention of leading this company as the CEO. And you use the word blank canvas, Kevin. There's never a blank canvas because management proposes and leads, and the board, of course, has incredible input on what we're doing. Next question, Koos, was about what happened when Bob joined and other executives. Do you want to take that?
I think that's too difficult. That's above my pay grade. So, Ervin, what do you say?
Yeah, there's nothing to really, you should anticipate, let me say it this way, you should not anticipate any other significant management changes that result from this transition. I was not around the last time, so I don't even know the particulars of last time, but I can say that to you with conviction today.
Yeah.
The last question, Kevin, about operator investor, let me just spend a little bit of time on that. People often ask us this question. We are very committed to the overall strategy of compounding value by being both an operator and an investor. You heard me say that in our prepared remarks. that it is true, of course, that we will sometimes shift in one direction or another, weighting towards one direction, one end or the other, as conditions warrant. And we have certainly, as I think you've all observed, shifted towards operator mode more in the last 18 months as appropriate. So the principle is still the same, but we may shift. I'm not going to stand here today to predict where we go from here. As I said earlier, this is day one, but we'll take a hard look at everything with the board's input. Yeah, I think we're ready for the next question, please.
Thank you. The next question we have is from Sylvia Cunha of Deutsche Bank. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My first question is for Koos. If you could please tell us about the process to search for a permanent CEO from here. Would you be looking either internally or externally? And what is the timeline? And perhaps what sort of experience and background would you be targeting? And related to that, maybe also for Ervin this question, like how would you feel about taking up the full-time role? Is this sort of period a trial to some extent?
So yeah, I'll try.
Do you want to take the first one? I'll take the second.
Yes. So Sylvia, just imagine the following. So we discussed with Bob, and after 10 years, I mean, at some point you hand over. Life doesn't go on indefinitely for any of us, and this is a good point for various reasons. Okay, so we agree upon that. Now, at that moment, the board says to itself, we have to look closely at our strategy for the next few years. Then we want to be sure we have the best jockey in the saddle for the period, and that will take time because there's going to be a definition process, and then there's a search process, interview process, proposals, appointments, and so on. And of course, Erwin is in the saddle. Let's see how he performs. He's also definitely a strong candidate, so the board will make up their minds. But that takes a certain time. So we can't quite say how long. It's not a week and it's not a year. It's the normal process of a few months where you go through the process in an orderly fashion. And the moment the board makes a decision, they'll announce it to the market. In the meantime, just to be very clear, Erwin is not on APRO. He is actually running the company in every way that Bob ran it until this morning, with full authority of the board and full confidence of the board. It was a unanimous board decision to support him, and we wish him well. It's a tough job, but let's see.
Sylvia, let me add to Koos's comments in response to your second question and say, again, I am honored by this opportunity, and my very first priority is continuity. You should be assured of that. At the same time, and maybe I'll borrow the analogy from an earlier question on the blank canvas and use the canvas analogy, my intention is not simply to assume and receive a canvas with some art on it and just take care of it. My intention is to add to that canvas, to improve it, to make it even better. The rest is for the board and Koos to decide. That's my intention. That's how I will lead.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. We're coming up on the half hour, so I think I really have time for one more question, please.
Thank you, sir. The last question is from Nadim Mohamed of SBG Securities. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick question from me, given that many of my previous questions have been asked already. I just would like to understand, Ervin, I mean, during this period between today and when the new CEO has been appointed for the group, I mean, is there any curtailment in terms of your decision rights? I mean, for example, I assume you probably can't do something like a big acquisition in the next few months. Just to like understand if there's any curtailment in terms of the range of decisions that, of course, you could implement as acting CEO.
Yeah. Erwin, although it seems to be directed at Erwin, do you mind if I answer?
Sure. I think you should answer, Koos.
Yeah. Okay, so I think a good analogy is a ship at sea. The ship needs a captain, and the captain can't take half the decisions. The captain takes all the decisions. So The arrangement with the board very clearly is we appoint Ervin as CEO. He has all the powers of every other CEO, and what Bob had until this morning. He can propose to the board acquisitions, disposals, change of strategy, whatever, until further notice. That's the position. So he has the full authority and the full confidence of the board.
Thank you very much.
Great. I think that's all we have time for. Thank you all for joining us today, and we will be in touch. Please reach out to IR with any questions as always. All the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your line.